What's up, y'all? Welcome to No Debate with your boy Destin and your host Diego. This is a podcast and show where we debate basketball like some real G's. All that shit you see on ESPN, Fox, that's trash. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Come
facts.
here. That's big facts, all right?
Big
So,
facts.
with no further ado, we're gonna get right into it. We're gonna start with the Rookie of the Year debate. All right, let's start with the most important race of the year, Rookie of the Year.
It's not though. There's a very clear cut winner,
Okay, but it's that's not the case.
but it is.
I mean, yeah, it's clear cut if you think Donovan Mitchell is going to be Rookie of the Year. But other than that, it's yeah, I guess
I
it
don't
is clear
get how you
cut.
can say that when Ben Simmons is more efficient. He averaged more assists, more rebounds, and only slightly less points.
Yeah, that's what you're gonna say. So he may have averaged more points. No, he actually didn't average more points. Donovan Mitchell to average more points. He may have averaged more assists, more rebounds, but you also have to give him the advantage of being a bigger player. He may have had more assists because he was playing point guard. When you're playing this Ricky Rubio, he's facilitating your offense. You don't really get the option to get that many assists. Donovan Mitchell carried his team, who just lost Gordon Hayward by himself to the playoffs, to a first-round upset of the Thunder. He didn't have Joel Embiid. He had Rudy Gobert, but Rudy Gobert and Joel Embiid, who do you prefer? I'd take JoJo.
Yeah, but slightly. Rudy Gobert.
Slightly?
Rudy Gobert is still an amazing defensive player of the year.
Candidate, right? He's a Defensive Player of the Year finalist, and so is Joel Embiid, right? But Joel Embiid is also second team All NBA because of his offensive game.
From Joel Embiid. He's still great. That team, the Jazz were still a great team. They still won less games than Philadelphia.
Right, because they had not as many pieces. Am I right or am I right? Right. So if you want to go by the same statistics,
each team had like two pieces.
They had more than two pieces. Okay, so you're going to compare what Redick to Ingles then as a sharpshooting player that they had, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then
Joe Ingles dropped 27 in the playoffs.
Yeah, Redick was doing the same shit. He put up 30.
Exactly. So they're
okay.
comparable.
So who's Dario on the Jazz then? Derek Favors? No. Who is yeah, okay, fine, defensively because Dario don't. Okay, fair, but they also. I mean, it's not close. Joel Embiid.
I know it's not close when you look at all the statistics for what player produced more.
Donovan was by himself.
He wasn't by himself.
In a harder conference, had to make the playoffs by himself. Okay,
yeah.
If you're going by the same metrics that
Joel Embiid was injured, Ben Simmons went on a 17-game win streak.
Okay, but if you're going by the same metrics that what's his name? What Nick Wright? He uses what? He'd say Joel Embiid's what? Probably 4.5-star player. 4.75. Rudy Gobert's a 4, right? Donovan Mitchell right now is about a 4. Ben Simmons is 4, right? But in terms of Rookie of the Year, because I'm not even talking about age. I'm not talking about how long they've been in the league, whether they redshirted or not. Pure game, I still think Donovan Mitchell had a better season.
No, because when you would watch the games, Ben Simmons would take over the games, and he would lead the team completely. Without Ben Simmons, that team had no leader, no clear-cut leader, and had no floor general.
They had no clear-cut leader?
Yeah.
Because if I recall, when Joel Embiid was on their team last year and Ben Simmons was redshirting, that he was their clear-cut leader. And this season, he once again was the clear-cut leader.
Like half the games?
I think he played 34.
Yeah, exactly. Not even half the games. You can't say he's a
You can't say he's not a leader because he gets hurt. That's not how life works.
I know. Maybe he has leading characteristics, but he can't be the team's leader last year and say that he was the clear-cut leader.
He can't be the team's floor general, but he can be the team's leader. Exactly. He's their best player. He's their leader.
Ben Simmons would control the pace of the game completely. Everything was in his hands and under his control.
And so you're saying Donovan Mitchell was not the leader of the Jazz?
I'm saying he is, but he didn't have the same effect on his team that Ben Simmons did.
They both guided their team to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Joel couldn't do that by himself. They both did it by themselves. Not by themselves, with help, obviously, but they couldn't. Their teams couldn't do that without
them. So we agree that it's equal. They both got their teams to the playoffs, but then when you look at the statistics, who had the better stats? Ben Simmons did in every category other than 3-point shooting.
But you're looking at it, actually not in every single stat. Donovan was a better free throw shooter, but you're looking at it in terms of you're not looking at it in terms of talent. You're looking at stats, not production.
Talent, it's no debate at all. Ben Simmons is a lot more talented than Donovan Mitchell.
I would not give him a better handle. I would not give him a better jumper. I would not give him better vision. I would not give
him better vision. How can you say not better vision when he averaged 6 more assists.
Because the way the defense plays him versus the way the defense plays Donovan Mitchell, they give Ben Simmons the space to have that vision and to create because he can't shoot. Donovan Mitchell gets no space. Because you give him space, he's drilling in your face. And if you don't give him space, he's going by you. So the way you guard Donovan Mitchell predicates how he's going to have his offense. Ben Simmons is given that space to make the vision.
Ben Simmons has been regarded as one of the next LeBron since high school, and they weren't always giving him that space. They've always said he's been an amazing passer. He's an amazing passer. You watch the passes that he has and everything he does.
Yeah, he does have great passes.
He was nominated for Pass of the Year.
I'm not going to say he's not a great passer. He's a great passer. I think Donovan Mitchell, if he was running point guard, would be...
But he's not.
Because he's Ricky Rubio there. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. The reason why...
do ifs in sports. The
reason... I'm telling you the reason why Donovan Mitchell's assist numbers were not with Ben Simmons was because he's not playing point guard.
Okay, so...
So you cannot use that as an excuse to validate why Ben Simmons is better, just because of his vision, just because of the way the defense guards him, right? It's what they've done for their team. If Ben Simmons was on the Jazz, if you traded Ben Simmons for Donovan Mitchell straight up, they would not have made the playoffs. That's facts. Donovan Mitchell there...
I don't think they would have made the playoffs either. The 76ers.
Absolutely would, because Joel Embiid is there. Joel Embiid is a top 3 center in the league.
The only reason the Jazz aren't is because Ben Simmons is not what the Jazz need. They already have a light version of that in Ricky Rubio. He's not nearly as good, but he's still the floor general and the leader and the facilitator.
So you're saying a team. So if they had, say they don't make that trade for the Cavs, if they had Rubio, Hood, Ingles, Simmons, and Gobert, that team is not. You're saying is worse than the Donovan Mitchell team. I think it is, but you're saying it's not because. The extra playmaking, he has shooters around him. Ricky Rubio had a better shooting season than he has in any of his previous seasons. Hood is a good shooter. He didn't show it with Cavs, but he's a good shooter. Ingles is a great shooter. He'd be surrounded by shooters, and he'd have that lob guy. So I'm saying that they should, theoretically, the way the NBA is moving with playmaking and switching defensively, they should still have been able to compete, but they wouldn't have been able to because they're in the Western Conference, and Ben Simmons is not talented as Donovan Mitchell.
I don't get how you could say that at all.
Okay, well, our time is up. Time to move on to the next topic. All right. Moving on. Not as important because this one is very clear cut. But Sixth Man of the Year, who you got?
Lou Will.
23,
5-3.
Yeah, I got Lou Will too.
No one else came close.
You can't see anybody else came close. Yeah, Gordon had a great season. But it was not all-star worthy. Honestly, I felt Lou was snubbed of his all-star position.
Yeah, he couldn't have made it. He's so talented with guards.
Sure. Yeah, it's a guard-heavy league and guard-heavy side of the conference. And given I have a little bit bias because I'm a Clippers fan, RIP.
I mean, Lou Will's forever the sixth man.
He's sixth god, absolutely. Yeah. Sixth man, sixth god. I'm just hoping that contract extension the Clippers gave him, he can, even though they snubbed that motherfucker, they shorted him some money.
How old is he? Like 33?
I think he's like probably 31. But, I mean, still, like 3 years, $8 million a year? 23 a game, dog?
Yeah.
Generally, these players get paid $1 million per point they put up. If it's an offensively paid,
10.
You know what I'm saying?
At very least.
At very
the
least.
Way all these players, Otto Porter's making what, 18? 20?
Right. Now, given that was the Nets GM, honestly making a fantastic GM move and fucking the Wizards. He should be paid more than that. But hopefully, he has a great season next year, gets that All-Star berth. I think that's it for this one.
Next, we have Coach of the Year. My guy was completely snubbed from the finalist list. Mike D'Antoni. He had one of the best offenses ever. He gelled CP3 and Harden together perfectly. There was no slip-ups at all. They have the first offensive rating, the sixth defensive rating. They're second in points, and the next closest team in the NBA lost 6 more games.
Yeah, I can't argue that. He also, just by having one of the, actually I can't even make that argument. I'm going with Brad Stevens. Brad Stevens had a fantastic team, comparable in talent to the Rockets, if they're healthy. They weren't healthy though. That's the kick. That's the kicker. D'Antoni won Coach of the Year, last year, and he very well could have won it this year. But Brad Stevens, there's something commendable about a coach, about being able to build your team around a coach, right? Like, yeah, these teams have the Celtics have great players, but that team is built around Brad Stevens, right? Because he's that good of a coach that they lost their second best player the first, not even the first 6 minutes of the season, regular season. They lost their second best player, and they didn't finish the season with their first best player, right? And not only that, did they finish with the second best record in the East without their second best player the whole season, pretty much. Once they got to the playoffs, they did not have they didn't finish the season with their best player. Huh?
Don't bring up the playoffs. Regular season 1.
Okay, well, if we're not bringing up the playoffs, it changes it. It does change it. But I'm still giving it to Brad Stevens because he did take that team with Kyrie Irving, essentially. The development of Jason Tatum, development of Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum was very polished coming out of college, but even still, that development.
Well, we don't know what could have happened. Sure, we'll give him some credit.
But what about Jaylen Brown, right? He went from averaging 8 points a game to 14 to 1 assist to like 3, maybe 2 rebounds. He developed Jaylen Brown very well. Kyrie Irving did the exact same shit in Cleveland that he did in.
He was a great coach this year. Yeah, he did amazing things. He wasn't the coach of the year. He was a great coach.
I don't think D'Antoni was the coach of the year either.
Why?
Because D'Antoni had Harden the whole year. D'Antoni had a trio that when they were on the court for the regular season lost 2 games. 2 games. Okay, if they played all year healthy, that's better than that Warriors team that made that broke the record. That's better than that Chicago Bulls team with Jordan. That is so fucking. I'm gonna cut that.
And
but
how many games did they win with those 3? It was like 60. They played like 60 games together, right?
No, they always played like less than 40. I think it was like 36 and 2. But
exactly, and so that means for the other half of the season, one of them was injured, and they still only lost 15 games.
But I'm sitting here saying it doesn't matter if one of them is injured.
Second or third best players were injured, just like your guys' team, and they only lost 15 games in the Western Conference.
It doesn't but it's not like they're only playing Western Conference teams. They're playing Eastern Conference teams. They're playing Western Conference teams.
You play more Western Conference teams in the Western Conference.
Okay.
You play more people in your division more.
Okay.
So
the Celtics had a younger team. Harder to coach because of it. The Rockets are a veteran team. Chris Paul understands his time's running out. He's not playing no games.
If the players are coachable and they're young, they're more open to being coached. If you're a veteran
I'm not saying they're not open to being coached.
I know you just said it's harder to coach a younger team.
It is.
That's not necessarily true.
It's not because
buy into it a lot
obviously they're coachable players. You saw the development. But I'm sitting here saying as far as matureness, right? As far as discipline on the court, right? Like, yes, they're coachable. You can get them to be better players, but are they going to be there when do they have ice in their veins, right? When the clock's running down, you know Harden's going to do what he's got to do. Chris Paul's going to do what he's got to do. These young guys, they've never been in this situation before. They never had this full 82-game stretch that these players are now doing for the first time. Paul, Harden, they've done that before, right? Capella, he really stepped up this season. I will give you that.
See, I could agree that's what I'm saying. I'm not taking away from Brad Stevens by saying he's not the coach of the year. He had a great...
And I'm not trying to take away from D'Antoni by saying he's not.
I know. It's just that D'Antoni's team was so much better than any other team that you can't really argue it. Like he was first offense, 6 defense, second points. The next closest team won 6 less games.
But the Rockets were also just a all-out. Even if the Celtics were healthy, but even if the Celtics were a healthy team and the Rockets were a healthy team, the Rockets were a better team. Number 1 player, Harden. Kyrie or Harden? Who are you taking? Harden. Okay. Second player, Chris Paul or Hayward? Who are you taking?
Well, you
Paul.
Can't penalize someone for having a good team.
I'm sitting here saying not only was the Rockets team a better team, they were a more mature team, a veteran team that wants it, right?
OKC had 3 great players. They didn't do too well.
You're saying about this season?
Yeah.
Because they're coached shittily. That's exactly an argument.
Exactly.
Donovan Mitchell should not be their coach.
Exactly. So you still need a good coach to have them gel together and everything work
right.
well together.
And D'Antoni and Stevens are both great coaches.
D'Antoni
and Stevens are great coaches. There's no debating that. That's no debate. I'm sitting here saying that Brad Stevens had a better coaching season than Mike D'Antoni.
But he didn't because the Rockets were by far the best regular season team.
The Celtics were a better defensive team all season.
But
okay.
Rating maybe.
It doesn't matter. If, ands, or buts. Was they better or not? If, ands, or buts. They are better. right? Offensively,
Who's
they were
the best
not. They were not.
offensive? Exactly.
Okay, they were not.
What's
But
basketball about? Getting buckets.
what does defense win you?
Getting buckets.
What does defense win you?
Games.
Championships. Keep that in mind next year when the Rockets aren't in the finals and the Celtics are. All right? Well, I know we're talking about this year.
Yeah.
Defense wins you championships. They had a better defense, and they were a younger team. It was a harder team to coach.
Obviously, doesn't
There's-
win games because they didn't win nearly as many as the Rockets.
All right, well, we're wrapping up that segment. Time to move on.
And on to the next topic. Pretty clear cut. Most improved. Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with that one. Victor went from sidekick to his own superhero.
Yeah, he took over a team. All-star worthy.
Right, wasn't even a good sidekick at that. I mean, honestly, you could almost see it building when he was to Orlando because when he came out the gates putting up 17 and a half a game,
he's putting him.
and they gave up on him too soon. I felt for him to be a number 2 overall pick.
Exactly.
He wouldn't have fit in their
After 2
system, but
years,
still,
yeah.
they could have got a new coach because if they have him, Gordon, now
Yeah.
Bamba, and Jonathan Isaac,
That's
they have a
core
fantastic
building. Yeah.
Caudero, whatever they call that shit. And you can give some consideration to Lou Will for this award too.
But he's winning 6, man. You can't give him
right.
2 awards. Really.
I mean, you can give him 2 awards, but Victor is still more deserving than Lou, but
they
he
made the
gets
playoffs.
heavy
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah.
Heavy consideration.
Especially after what they thought about Paul George. They thought that
Right.
season was just throwaway. They're
Right.
like, "Alright, fuck it. Like,
And not only did they, because that trade was just honestly a fantastic trade because they got,
now looking back at it. Yeah.
looking back, right, in hindsight bias,
Yeah, because Victor
2020.
Oladipo was almost as good as Paul George now.
I would argue he was as good. I'm not saying he's better,
This
but I would
year, I'd
argue
say
he's
he
better
was, but
this year, yeah.
We've seen
Who's the
Paul
same?
George be better than this Victor Oladipo.
I'm going to say he was equal as Paul George because Paul George had to take a lesser role. And yeah, we
This
have
year?
seen Paul George, this
Okay.
year. And we have seen Paul George honestly do better than his last year. Before the leg injury, we've seen him do better.
Yeah.
Not that the leg injury derailed his career. I think it just
He
changed the way
slowed
he
him
played
down.
a
I
little
feel
bit
like
and it
he
slowed him down.
yeah.
I mean, he's always been that kind of slow player who's like very cerebral, calculating.
Yeah, but he used to be super athletic.
But he still is very athletic.
Yeah,
But his game used to be a little bit more predicated off his athleticism,
yeah.
especially during the time of his dunk contest era days. But Victor Oladipo put up what 23. What you know you have the stats.
Oh yeah, he had 23. He had 7 more points this year than last year. 2 more assists, 1 rebound. He doubled his steals and blocks, and he shot better from
Right.
3.
He literally had a Paul George stat line before Paul George left, coupled with DeMontis Sabonis, who could almost be in the conversation for 6th man of the year.
Yeah.
Not finalist, but he could be in the conversation top 5. So honestly, most improved goes to Victor Oladipo. I don't think there's a debate on that. No debate. All right, and lastly for our NBA awards, we have the least important award. I think it actually goes for like least valuable player, something like that.
Not funny.
Okay, yeah, it's MVP. I guess it's the most important award. Who you got? Taking
The undisputed GOAT, LeBron James.
So yeah, he's the GOAT. Well, not the GOAT. Best player of all time, not the GOAT. But he's also not the MVP. That's going to James Harden. Everyone says that, but everyone says that for a reason. It's true. He was the best. He was the most valuable player this season. Was he the best player this season? That's not the name of the award. But was he the most valuable player? He absolutely was.
No, because if you took LeBron
Off
of
the Cavs?
Cleveland, lottery team, easy.
Yeah.
Probably top 10.
Yeah.
Right? If you took James Harden off of Houston, they're probably still in the playoffs.
8 seed maybe.
That's the playoffs.
7 or 8 seed.
That's,
They're not doing shit. Chris Paul was hurt the entire season off and on. Clint Capella without James Harden and Chris Paul.
that's still
That
in the
team
playoffs.
they're not in the West.
That's a big difference from the.
It's not the
picking
same.
draft
Both
and making
teams
the
both
playoffs.
teams have a significant fall off. Yes, Chris Paul is
They both
a
have
buoy
significant
for the
fall off.
Rockets,
But
but
one is
how
gonna be in
hurt
the
he was this
lottery.
season,
And one is going to just be losing in the first round of the playoffs.
they might not
You
make the
still-
playoffs because then what? Their starting shooting guard is
definitely
Eric Gordon, who is a
contending.
great player.
They'll be contending for a spot.
Nobody could be sitting for the spots like the Clippers were. You're saying they're a better team than the Clippers would have been without James Harden and the Rockets are?
Yes. Yes. Easy.
You're saying that they're a better team than the Nuggets would have been. I can't say that.
They would be contending for the spot. Definitely.
I could say if they were both healthy, yes. But because Chris Paul was not healthy this season, they wouldn't have been a better team than the Nuggets. And the Nuggets would have knocked them out of the playoffs. And they would have been sitting there with the 14th pick in the draft. Maybe they'd have Michael Porter Jr. But James Harden was the key, just like Curry is the key that makes the Warriors run. He's the key that makes the Rockets run.
See, LeBron's the lock. He's the key. He's the door. He's the handle.
Yeah, but
LeBron's
you can.
everything. Without LeBron, that team is literally nothing.
But
It's Kevin Love in Minnesota.
also the difference is that's because you're looking at the team as they are now. We're talking about a season, right? So if Isaiah Thomas is there, Kevin Love is there, Isaiah Thomas is healthy, and he gets to be the alpha dog that he was in with the Celtics. Maybe they aren't a lottery team because they're in the East.
Isaiah Thomas healthy. Doing trap
because he's sitting there fighting to be the second to be Robin when honestly he shouldn't have been. But that's because if LeBron's not there, he's gonna be fucking Superman like he was at the Celtics. Yeah, maybe he's not putting up 28 a game, but he's putting at least 20 up a game. And then Love gets a bigger role. Okay, they still have Dwayne Wade. They wouldn't have traded him. They would still have well, Iman Shumpert is trash, but they would have had a decent team. They would have made the playoffs in the East.
What did they do?
What do you mean? What did they do?
The whole team. What did they do?
Went to the finals.
Why?
I'm not saying they would have went to the finals with LeBron without LeBron, but they would have made the playoffs in the East with LeBron. Because with Kevin Love and Isaiah Thomas, that's a better 1-2 punch in the
Isaiah Thomas play.
And your point?
How did he play?
Okay, the Wizards without John Wall this season, the Cavs would have been better than the Wizards without John Wall all season with Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Love. I'm gonna say that.
How did Isaiah Thomas play?
He was hurt, and he was trying to fit into a system that was not built for him, like the Celtics was built for him.
How did he play?
I'm saying it would have been a different situation.
You're giving me the reason.
You're talking about if LeBron wasn't there, and I'm sitting here telling you if LeBron wasn't there, it would have been a different team. He wouldn't have the same plays run for him. He wouldn't have the same sets run for him.
Different team.
They wouldn't have.
Okay. But the team still played terribly, and LeBron had to carry it every step of the way.
And he did. I'm not saying he didn't do that.
Exactly.
He was the best player in the league this year. But if you lose him, they would have still had because they would not have made that Isaiah Thomas trade and Kevin Love trade if they didn't have LeBron, right? If they weren't trying to win immediately, they would not have made that trade, and they would have just dealt with the fucking hurt Isaiah Thomas. He probably would have waited a little bit longer to come back. Maybe K Love would go back to his Timberwolves days of 26-14. Maybe not. Who knows? But the Rockets would not have been as good a team without Harden as the Cavs would not have been as good a team without LeBron.
So you're saying if LeBron wasn't on the team, then
in the playoffs, it's a different team.
All these players would play different, and everything else would be different. I'm saying what actually happened, we watched these players play awful all season. They had short spurts where they're okay, but all season, they were not a good team.
Yeah, we watched these players play awful all season.
That's what happened. You live in this world of ifs and maybes, and if this was like this, and
because you're talking about if LeBron was on the team. I never brought that up. You brought that up.
Yeah, you're saying, but factually, we watched them play awful all year, and we saw LeBron carry the team to the playoffs.
Because that's the way the team was built. LeBron does everything, and he's got shooters around him, right? That's not the way Rodney Hood is meant to play. Yeah, he's not a great spot-up standstill shooter, but he can do it, but he's not. That's not how he's meant to play. That's not how Jordan Clarkson is meant to play.
That doesn't take away from LeBron's.
That's not how Isaiah Thomas is meant to play. That's not how Kevin Love is meant to play.
Okay, that doesn't take away from LeBron being an MVP. The players.
Yes, it does.
No, that takes away from the coach.
Because every player on the Rockets played how they were meant to play because James Harden allowed them to do that. Yes, LeBron carried a team of scrubs to the finals, but that's because they weren't playing the roles that they are comfortable playing. On the Rockets, they were allowed to play that role they were comfortable playing because Harden played a role that allowed them to do that. If Harden was point guard, Chris Paul couldn't play point guard. And that makes that's why that transition is not as seamless. Because Harden was point guard last season. And he had a great season. He should have been MVP last season. Right? If LeBron played small forward and just did that and let everybody else do their roles and he had a lesser role, they would have been a shit team. But maybe he'd have been more valuable player because the players would have been better. He would have been more valuable to his team because he would have elevated the whole team, not just dragged them. He dragged them. He didn't elevate the team. He dragged them. Harden elevated his team. That's why he's my MVP.
He didn't elevate his team. All the players on the team just did what they were supposed to do.
You're saying Chris Paul would have that exact same season he played for the Clippers with Blake Griffin and DeAndre if they ran it back.
Yeah. He just did for the past 6 years.
No, he did that because he didn't have to carry as much with the Rockets.
He just did that for the past 6 years. And then even if you look at the stats, LeBron has more everything.
I'm a Chris Paul fan, obviously. I got the Chris Paul jersey right there.
No one's talking about Chris Paul.
I'm sitting here saying that
from one person to another.
I'm sitting here saying that Harden elevated his teammates. LeBron didn't do that. He dragged those motherfuckers. He won in spite of them. Despite how trash they were, he won.
Elevate anyone.
I'm not saying if Harden. I'm not saying if you switch those players because they wouldn't do. If you switch those players, the Cavs would have been a fucking playoff team, but they would not have gone to the finals at all if Harden was switching place with LeBron. LeBron was on the Rockets, they probably would have won a championship. But the way that their seasons went, LeBron didn't elevate his teammates. And I'm not saying Harden could have done that with filling the Cavs either, but I'm saying because he was on the Rockets, he did. Capella was a better player because Harden was on the court. Paul was a better player because Harden was on the court. Eric Gordon was a better player because Harden was on the court. All these players were better players because Harden was on the court.
No, they all did everything that they've averaged for the past however many years they've been in the league. None of them had this outstanding season. Eric Gordon had a worse season than last year. Chris Paul had the same.
That's because he had less touches, and it wasn't worse. He had a statistically, it was not a worse season. It was less points, but he was more efficient. He had a higher PER. Yeah, he shot better from the 3-point line. I don't have his stats right here, but I do know he shot better from the 3-point line. I posted in the bio or whatever, but he had a better season. Right. Statistically, not.
They all had relatively close to basically with the same season that they've had their entire careers, other than Clint Capella, but that's just because he's young, so he's still developing.
All right. Well,
for LeBron's team, they all just had worse seasons, and that was definitely not LeBron's fault. He was never doing anything to take away from them.
I'm not saying how bad the players played was because of LeBron. I'm just saying he didn't elevate them.
And neither did James Harden.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. They all had relatively close to the same seasons that they've had on every other team they've played for.
When James Harden goes, the Rockets go. And he went all season. When LeBron does not go, the Cavs don't go. When LeBron goes, the Cavs still don't go. They don't make a difference.
They made the playoffs. They made the finals.
And then they lost. LeBron was going the whole time.
Where was Houston from like June 1st to June 7th?
So the team that beat both of our teams, right? The Cavs are healthy. The Rockets were not healthy. Neither of those players could beat the Warriors by themselves. But obviously, neither of those players could beat the Warriors by themselves.
Exactly. The Rockets have a better team.
But neither of those teams could beat the Rockets with only one star.
I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
So I'm sitting here telling you that it doesn't matter that LeBron dragged his team to the final because if the Rockets were in the East, Harden would have done the same shit. You're saying any of the teams in the East besides the Cavs could have beat the Rockets?
No, I'm saying the fucking Cavs sucked. And they shouldn't have been in the finals. They were only in the finals.
Yeah, but the Rockets would have been in the finals if they were in the Eastern Conference too, even without Chris Paul. But they would have still lost to the Warriors.
But you're missing the whole point. The Cavs are a shitty team that without LeBron would be in the top 10 picks. But with LeBron, they're in the finals. Do you see how drastic of a difference that is in a season? Picking in the top 10 and making the finals?
I see how... I'm not debating whether LeBron had a huge impact on the team. I'm just saying he's not MVP. I'm just saying he's not MVP.
Shit, the Rockets are a better team than the Cavaliers. The Rockets would probably beat the Cavaliers.
And that is because of James Harden.
No, that is because every other player, if you went down the list, after them is better on the Rockets.
All right, well,
every single one.
We gotta wrap this segment
better
up.
Than the second best player on the Rockets. Debatably. One for
what?
sure.
One for sure, but...
Debatably, two. Clint Capella?
If you put Kevin Love on his own team, let him be the star again, he would be a better player than Clint Capella. If you put Clint Capella and Kevin Huff...
If Frog had pockets, he would carry a knife and cut the snake's head off. We don't do
So you shouldn't be saying that Clint Capella is arguably a better player. You should be saying Clint Capella arguably had a better season. If they're not doing ifs. Because if you're doing ifs, if Kevin Love and Clint Capella were both on their own teams, Kevin Love's team would do better.
I don't do ifs. I do what happened and what we watched happen.
All right, time to wrap it up. On to our next segment. All right, and on to our final and least or most controversial. Honestly, it could go either way.
It's the most important probably for what's going to happen in the next NBA season.
Yeah, definitely. Huge effect in the NBA offseason. So we're on LeBron watch. Where do you think he's going to go?
Man, if Paul George goes to LA, he'll probably go to LA. If not, he probably has the best basketball fit in Philly, but I don't know how much he'll want to go there because he does care about his family and his legacy and where his life is going after basketball. So he might just stay in Cleveland another year.
First off, sources are telling me that the Spurs don't plan to trade him to the Western Conference. Talking about Kawhi, yeah. So he's not going to the Lakers. Even if Paul George didn't go there, if Kawhi is there, LeBron's going. I don't think LeBron's best basketball fit is Philly. I think a under the radar fit that people don't really look at is the Jazz. He has a Dwayne Wade light in Donovan Mitchell. He has a great center in Rudy Gobert. He has a way upgraded point guard in Ricky Rubio. He's got another great floor spacer in Joel Ingles. Whether you want to be having Ray Allen, Kyle Korver, you want to call him a great floor spacer. Obviously not on that same level as him, but today his talent would help a lot. They'd have a good bench. Favors, Burks, Dante Exum might come back next season. I think that'd be a great fit. Especially if he wins a ring with the Jazz, that's legendary.
He doesn't want to live in Utah. He doesn't want to bring.
Yeah, but I'm talking about fit because the Sixers.
I know what you're talking about.
It's the Fresh Prince and the King. Like, cool, he can take the torch, but that's not a great fit. I mean, Paul George fits there better. I think.
Paul George and Kawhi definitely fit there better.
I don't think he fits at the Rockets. Even if they could get him without trading fools. Maybe he fits there, but because they have to trade so much to get him, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not a good
him
fit.
On the Rockets, just the entire team would be so depleted.
I do think though, if the Lakers get him, and they don't, and they can't get Kawhi now, they would have a great team if they get Paul George too. Because if they're keeping Ball, Ingram, and Kuzma,
they keep them all.
And Hart, that's a great bench.
Exactly.
And even some of the starters. And I think Lonzo starting on the court with Paul George and LeBron James, that's the facilitation on that team would be fantastic.
It'd be such great basketball to watch.
It would be great basketball.
I really like LA.
Like when people were saying that
Paul George doesn't go to LA, LeBron's not going to LA. They need another star.
Right, they do. Because he's not coming by himself. Even by himself, that team is not enough.
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's better than the Cavs, but they're not coming out the West because they'd have to beat the Warriors or the Rockets.
Yeah, just
I do think that when people were talking about trading for Kawhi, I thought they should trade Kuzma and Ingram because they wouldn't have a point guard otherwise, and they could go out and get a scrub point guard. But Lonzo, he didn't have a great rookie season, but you were telling me about this the other week, that if he averaged 13 points, 40% shooting, or 45% shooting, whatever you were saying, and the same
from free throw.
and the same assists and rebounds, you'd say he'd have great, right? He'd be in the debate for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I think those stats are not far-fetched for next season.
Not at all.
Even 15 a game for next season.
I can see it.
And I see him. He's great, already great defender. Obviously, this has nothing to do with LeBron, but I'm just saying.
Thought he was awful.
Right, everybody thought that. So I think with the Lakers, he would have a great team. I do have reports coming in that he has. I mean, that he has 2 homes in Brentwood. Reports coming in that they're side by side. He's planning to build a mega mansion. They're side by side. He bought his house, and the one next one went up for sale. He bought that too. He's planning to build a mega mansion in Brentwood. I really hope it's the one that he bought OJ's old crib, and he can turn that. I don't think he did, but I think it'd be fucking tight if he did.
Yeah, and his kids go to Sierra Canyon, not next year, but the year after. I feel like he cares about his family and stuff, and you want to watch his son's games.
He seems like a family man.
Yeah, and it's LA, and he can start his next career here. I feel like LA would be. I feel like that's the spot he wants to go to, but he's not going to do it unless they get another person.
Right. Yeah, I do think that is his first choice.
But he cares about his legacy above all.
Absolutely. Because at that point right now, it's not. He's not playing to play. He's playing to
he
enhance
doesn't
his
have
legacy.
any years to waste.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm throwing my pick in the hat, I'm going LA. Just because even though Paul George does look like he could go back to the Thunder,
I don't think so. I think Paul George.
He's from LA. You know,
I feel like he's going to talk to Bron.
He knows Russ is not. Yeah. He's not winning with Russ. Whether I don't know if Paul George's intention is to win a championship in his time in the league.
Paul George would come to LA, hang out with his family and stuff. Be like, you know what? It's pretty dope here.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
I want to stay here.
And even if Kawhi gets traded to the Eastern Conference, he wants to play in LA too.
I really like.
So he might come next year.
Until
if Kawhi stays,
happens. No, even now, because I just feel like that team's gonna be really messed up if Kawhi stays, the chemistry wise and everything.
I think LeBron could get him to suck it up for his final couple seasons.
LeBron to the Spurs was my favorite pick until all the shit happened.
But I couldn't see LeBron going to the Spurs unless Greg Popovich extends his coaching window, unless he coaches past the 2020 Olympics.
Yeah.
Because LeBron is not playing for just 2 more years. Unless he gets barring a catastrophic injury, he's probably going to play for another 5 years. He says he wants to play with his son, and his son's about 13.
He needs to play for like 6 more years.
And his son could get into the league at 18 if he decides to forego college.
Mm-hmm.
And so he could play that one season with his son. So at minimum 5 to 6 years he wants to play. Pop wants to coach for 2 years. So that fit doesn't work unless Pop extends it. But Pop, obviously, he's done this for 20 plus years. He deserves a break.
He had LeBron if they had a really successful first season, that he might do that.
I think he'd join on as a Jerry West role, advising in like team construction, but I don't think he'd
That's
coach.
not the same. That doesn't.
It's not the same,
Yeah,
but he wouldn't. I don't think he'd take on as big a role because he's been doing this for so long.
I know. He's probably so burnt out.
Right.
He's done everything he possibly could.
And as an advisor, still, if you have a coach, and I think they should upgrade Becky Hammond to that position, make some history there as a first class organization to have not only be a first class organization, but to have a first female head coach in any professional league. But he could, as advisor, anytime whoever coaches there, even if it's not Becky Hammond, they can still go to him and say, "What should we do?"
I understand, but it's still not being coached firsthand by the person.
But he's still one of the things that people talk about when they talk about how and why Pop is such a good coach is because of his player relations.
Mm-hmm.
He's still doing that as Jerry West. He's still checking in on you and your family and how you're feeling and what you want to do outside of basketball.
Yeah, I don't think LeBron stays.
But that's one of the reasons. Like, yeah, he's a great coach on the court, but that's also because of the way he connects with his players. And he doesn't have to be coached to connect with his players like that.
Yeah, but I don't think LeBron's going to play for that team
unless unless Pop is coaching. So which is why I don't think that timeline works for them. So yeah, if I have my pick, I'm going Lakers. But I would like to see.
I'd have to say Lakers.
I would like to see how he fit on the Sixers because that would be dominant. Because defensively,
I'd like to see how he fit on. I'd like to see how he fit on Houston.
It's
just
that'd be sweet. I mean, I really would like to see him fit on the Celtics, but I know Kyrie, that would be awkward.
Yeah.
They're essentially trading Kyrie with that, but that's a better team than the team that won a championship.
Yeah.
And that's what you would need to play the Warriors.
Yeah, you need.
That'd be competitive. And I'd give them the edge, unless somebody gets hurt. But I'd still give them the edge. I'd give the Celtics the edge.
I'd give the Warriors the edge.
Starting five of Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, LeBron James, and
Gordon Hayward and Al
Horford, and then you got, okay, fine, so one of them comes off the bench. I don't know who comes off the bench. One of those guys comes off the bench.
Probably Tatum.
That's a big six, dog. Compared to a big four, that's a big
the way
six.
The Warriors play together and everything, and they still do have two of the top 5 best players ever and 3 of the top 5 best shooters ever. And just, it's a 3-point shooting league, and how much points they score, and they do play defense. There's just so much into it that makes the Warriors this all-time great team.
They are an all-time great team, all-time great dynasty.
Yeah.
But I think dynasties are made to be broken. So you're going. What team are you going with?
Lakers.
Lakers.
I feel like the Lakers will get Paul George.
So we're going Lakers. No debate.
Yep.
No debate.